KCAC fellow member artists and Kansas City community patrons, and perhaps some random strangers stumbling upon our channel. Welcome to the Kansas City Artist Coalition's Artist Talk series. I am your host, Programs Director Jen Harris, she, her. I am a writer, and I am also blessed, very grateful and fortunate to be the programs director here at KCAC. And this is part of our programming, bringing you the opportunity to meet and get to know other exhibiting artists that are coming into the KCAC exhibition space. And in June, one of our exhibiting artists is Kristen Martincic. And Kristen is currently residing in Columbia, Missouri. Her artist statement says that she's captivated by water and how it can be a space, a color, a feeling, a container. She uses swimming pools and objects associated with water to meditate on water's translucency and the act of swimming. Fun fact, Kristen is formerly a competitive swimmer. Her poolscapes deconstruct and extract elements from the lap pool, bending, cutting, and rearranging lane lines, tile, and even the water itself. We talk about the impact of water and the direction of it, and how she's created these works in their many forms to illustrate water, but something deeper is there. She talks about how these surreal, futile pools are spliced together and blur horizon and aerial views to shift perspective. And that's absolutely what she does. Her work is a hybrid of printmaking, drawing, and painting. And she gets into that a little bit more in the interview. So I hope that you will enjoy Kristen Martincic's work, and I look forward to seeing you at KCAC, 3200 Gillham Road. We'll see you soon, and enjoy the interview.
All right, Kristen Martincic, welcome to the KCAC Artist Talk Conversation Series. I'm really excited that you are here today, so thank you for joining me.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. And you said you're in Columbia, Missouri, right?
Yes.
Excellent. Have you been there long? Have you been there always?
We have been here. No, we are. We've been here for 10 years now. My husband got a teaching position at the University of Missouri, Columbia, and that's what brought us here.
Okay, so you have a studio in your home, right?
I do. I have a home studio. You can
Excellent.
see, like, my wall behind me.
Yeah, and you proposed to KCAC a series called Poolscapes. Is that right?
Yeah.
Poolscapes. I would love to know how you got invested and involved in creating these kind of translations, if you will. I find them so meditative and peaceful, and I'm curious how you got involved in that in the first place.
Well, I love that you're getting this sense of like meditation and peace, because that is really that's like the headspace I'm going for. I think it goes back to the early days, like these formative years when I was young and I was swimming competitively. I grew up in the Cleveland area, and so summers were like every day, get up first thing in the morning, go to the pool, lap swim 2 hour, swim team practice for 2 hours, and then go home, eat, nap, and then go back to the pool or go to the lake. So I just like water was just such a huge part of my upbringing. And then I wonder how much of my work is like, I'm not around water, and I haven't been around a big body of water in a long time, that there's like this sort of seeking that space. And I'm drawn to like pools as like I'm thinking about like, how does the body move in water, like that, this sort of like really kind of methodical, meditative nature of lap swimming. So it's all coming from that kind of these like early days, this like really kind of like sensory recollections of swimming and being underwater, being submerged. Like how does the water feel when it's surrounding you? And then I don't know, maybe it was more than 15 years ago when I made my first piece that was about water, and it was a big installation that was like a 16 by 16 by 8 foot tall enclosed space that was made out of blue translucent fabric that was lit from above, that you saw from the outside and you could see into it, but you couldn't see the reverse. And so when you came into the gallery, you came into like a locker room space that was really spare, and then you walked around it and came in. And I was really like pulled to like trying to recreate this kind of like, what does it feel like to be submerged in water? And really specifically like thinking about what does it feel like to swim at night? So the piece was called Night Swimming. And that really was like the springboard for me making work about water, and then like making garments that you wear in water, bathing suits, or making life jackets. So like ever since that installation, that like big start, I've just been like, it's just pulled me and pulled my work. And so the poolscapes specifically are they're like I'm taking the pool and I'm extracting and I'm like deconstructing, like pulling out the lane lining, I'm pulling out the tile, I'm pulling out the water itself, and then like reconstructing it back together again. So in a really, I don't know, I guess it's like I'm interested. I keep it pretty minimal and like
You're figuratively draining the pool, but this is a very emotional process, right?
right. I mean, that's a great question. Like, no, I don't ever put like it's always the water. It's like, and I'm thinking about like how does somebody get into that water as a viewer?
Mm-hmm.
Like almost like the headspace of the water, but yeah, I'm never putting people in the water.
Right. Well, so is there still a deep love of that water like that? I mean, it's formative years, right? That's childhood. That's what you spent doing. Is this something you spent doing while you were bonding with your parents? Is this a place where you found yourself peaceful and capable? Like, is it just the nostalgia of like, this is what I grew up with and it makes me feel, like centered when you focus on it? Is there a particular feeling that comes over you when you're creating with this notion?
Yeah, I mean, I would say it is centering, it's grounding. I really, what I think is, I think this is the kind of like the nature of being swimming in any kind of competitive sport. It's like, what I focus on now is really this sort of like meditative, peaceful part of it. And like lap swimming and like pushing yourself in that competitive way is like drudgery and can be torture and like the methodical, like in a like when is this going to end kind of way. So it's, that's, I guess I'm not sure if I totally am answering your question. I maybe went going off on a little bit of a tangent.
No, you're completely fine. I think I just want to discuss it with you because it's such a even the piece that's on your right with that gradient from the white to the blue. I feel like I'm looking at a horizon. I also feel like you could be emerging in water, submerging, emerging. It's very immersive for being singular in its dimensions, right? So it's just that question to me of like, what is it that draws you to create and then offers the viewer this kind of participation, which I think is really interesting for a singular dimension product. So I think you answered it beautifully. Why did you competitively swim? Is that a family thing, or is it something you were just interested in?
Yeah, it was a family thing. I'm like number 4 of 5 kids, and we all swam.
Wow, that's
And
exciting.
I think some of it was like we live 10 minutes from the lake, and it was in some ways a like my parents saw it as like a necessity, like you need to swim well. Like if we are going to the lake, you need to swim well. And I think it is in some ways it's the thing I'm doing with my own child. It's like, oh, swim lessons start at 6 months. Let's get you like we're getting you in the water right away. Like let's I need to make sure you're comfortable in this and
Hmm.
like capable. Yeah, I mean, I think so. Your question about like, do you feel capable or like, it is not anything I really thought about until when I was making this work, and I would have conversations with people because they would see it and they would tell me their own like water experiences and how like, oh, you know, um they had parents who were like didn't let them go near water, didn't let them go, they never learned how to swim, they're afraid of it, or and that I don't know, there's just something like you have to really respect and revere water, and also like understand, like I'm just thinking about when you go swim in a natural body of water, like some place that has waves, you really have to be cognizant of what's going on and be one with the water. It sounds silly.
Well, no, I mean, I think it makes total, as a person who loves the ocean and has a healthy fear of it. I feel like I know, I grew up in Florida, so I know what the ocean is capable of doing in hurricane season. I also know what the ocean is capable of providing. I know what it's capable of producing. I think, and the unknowingness of the ocean feels like such. I mean, writers love to lean into the ocean and its many, its many metaphors, right? So I think that you expressing kind of this healthy relationship and this dynamic relationship with water, and also that everybody absolutely has a story related to water, their fear of water, their love of it. I mean, everything from teenage party hot tubs to, to flying across an ocean for the first time to get to another continent. Wholly terrifying when you really think about it, but that all involves the emotions related to water.
Right, right.
Do you have a particular body of water that you enjoy swimming in the most? Like, are you definitely like pools are for me? Or
I mean, well, I love pools, but there's also something about like when a pool is really well maintained, that is like that's fabulous. It can also be like someone who's it just doesn't have the same level of attention and the chemistry is off, and like so that's another story. But if we're talking about bodies of water,
yeah.
I just had this kind of like a beautiful, amazing experience of getting to swim in the Adriatic Sea when I was 16. And I stayed with my father's best friend's family in a like rural, not even a town, like in Croatia, where we just pulled up with a camper and set up for a week, no electricity, nothing, walked down to the beach, and it was like rocky, pebbly, jumping off of rocks into like this blue that is just like was so beautiful. So I think about that. I think about um like swimming off the beach in Tulum. Like that blue is really that blue is amazing. And I would love to see more blues, more waters. You know,
Mhm.
like I love
Do
seeing.
you do you shape like family vacations and getaways around seeking water?
Um, some of the time, yes. I mean, yes. We can get to water, that's great.
I mean, same. I'm like, listen, we could explore a city or we could be in nature. And I would
Right,
so
like,
much
I'm
rather
like,
be.
if it's gonna be a vacation,
Yeah.
the beach and water are necessary. Otherwise, it's not really a vacation for me.
Same, same. I'm always like, you want to do what in what city? Like, I want to see the world, but after our vacation,
Right.
you know? Um, is there, do you involve your child in your art at all?
No, I know some people are really good at that, being like really inclusive, and I I'm learning how to be like more like, I guess I would say what we've learned is like he understands what my space is, and like those are like, because my studio is almost like in a thoroughfare where like you come down and you walk through it to get into any other room.
Hmm.
And so he's around it all the time,
Yeah.
and I would say like he understands like this is mom's artwork, and then he also gets like, he like will decide, he's like, I'm gonna draw on the walls or I'm gonna draw on the table, but he like knows it's like right next to my artwork. It's drawing, you
Right.
know? It's like,
Right. So there's a healthy boundary there.
yeah, yeah, like he understands, like he's like, okay, how close can I come to it?
Yeah. I think it's an interesting thing for kids to grow up with art, like intentionally artistic creative parents, right? Like it's hard to share your art with your kids to some degree because there is it's such an intimate and emotional process, I think. And like I want to share reading with my youngest kid, right? Like I'm always forcing books on him and I'm like, I know you love soccer, but also I want to teach you to love reading, you know what I mean? Just because
Right.
it's something that I love. Um, but also there is, I think in my own experience with art, there is a retreat and a peacefulness that I experience when creating. So I'm always curious with other people, um, if this is a place that you go to hide, or if this is a place you go to really be yourself, regardless of the world, or if this is a place where you rage on the page, right? And I don't look at your work and see rage, but I wonder I wonder about your practice as it's related to you. When do you come to creativity? Do you do it every day like a habit? Is it something that like you're moved to show up? Like how does work for you?
Oh gosh, it really depends on where I'm at within a piece, or like how much a deadline is pushing me. Um, that whether or not it is like fluid and like easy, or if it's like really I gotta show up. I gotta show up. And I mean, and then there's also lots of part of, there's a whole other side of the making that is like the kind of admin business side of making that is definitely like, I have got to find a way to show up for this. So yeah, I mean it's a mix, and I think it's when it is when it's challenging, it's like, okay, I got to go back to some of these things, um like I'll do like a brain dump where I'm like, okay, word dump, like just like 3 pages of just like get out whatever is in my head, get it out so that I can clear my headspace and move to making. Or it's like, okay, I just need to spend 5 minutes making marks like on a page, not like anything that I'm trying to have turn into a piece of work, just like I have to move my hand, or like maybe it needs to be like more of a physical thing, like where I'm moving more of my body. So I definitely have a handful of like go-to strategies for that. Or I would say on top of that is like how to maintain accountability with other within the community. And so that's something I'm really actively doing, where I have a handful of friends, artist friends, that I'm like, we have like text threads where it's like, this is what I'm making, and like on a weekly basis, or like I'm doing, you know, bi-monthly meetings, like Zoom meetings, where we're catching up and talking about the things that are challenging, etc. So
That's fantastic. I think an accountability community where you can share and be excited and also show up, you know, it's such an important aspect of creativity to maintain, is to be able to communicate progress if you are indeed seeking some sort of creative path in your life that's not just a hobby, right?
right. I mean, like, it'll be great. It's like I get an image that they're working in the studio, and it's like, okay, all right.
Yeah.
That's what I
Yes.
got. Okay, I'm doing something.
I know that feeling so well. I'm like, oh, cool. Everybody's writing a book. I should write another book. That's a very real experience. In regards to your techniques, what kind of materials do you use to create? What kind of processes do you go through to wind up with the kind of work that we're seeing here in your background?
Yeah. Well, I'll just start off saying I'm trained as a printmaker, and so I think that is really the like formative way I enter into like all the other materials I use. And I would say it's like a hybrid. The poolscapes are a hybrid of like printmaking, drawing, and painting. And I will take I work a lot with thin Japanese papers, and I'll print oil-based inks on them, highly transparent blues and greens onto really thin Japanese papers, and create like this luminous gradient. And then for like the poolscapes, I'm like taking plywood and cutting those down to and shaping those to the kind of shaped canvas that I want. And then I sand and prep and gesso and kind of paint the what is like out the lane line or the tile. And then the gradient, that kind of print that I relief print, that's just like wood block, or like wood grain that I'm inking up in a blend roll, and multiple layers of that to get the color I want. That gets then collaged or mounted on top of the painting. And then there might be additional work that's going back into that again.
This feels so intricate and intimate and fragile. I can't imagine how much control it must take to control those colors and that gradient. Like even I keep looking at the piece over your right shoulder, and it's that at first I was like, wow, what a beautiful gradient, right? And then I'm sitting here and I'm looking at it. I'm like, I am looking at the surface of water to the point in which you can no longer see the water, and it is just kind of the light, the horizon. It is really enrapturing. So there's such
Thank you.
an element of control to your work, that an intentionality, that's what it is.
Yes. Yes, there's a lot of like being deliberate, and there are lots of steps. And I think my process like, I think your question about, do you let your kid come into your studio, like or I mean, he has a space in my studio, so he definitely can come into my studio. I don't mean that, but the like, yes, that element of control, like mastery of what I'm doing, like I'm really precise. Yeah.
I think that's beautiful. Listen, everybody's got rules about their studio. You know what I mean? My dog is always in my studio, but nobody else is allowed in here. So And it's just convenience of the location in my house, but otherwise, they just stomp in when they want to in previous studios or studio mates or any residency in which you're connected to other people. So, I really admire the precision and the intentionality and the subtle beauty in your work. And I'm excited to see you at the Kansas City Artists Coalition in June. As a Gemini, as a summer baby, I really appreciate this focal point on something I truly love, which is the season of kind of luring everybody outside and into water. I think that's really extraordinary. So thank you for submitting to KCAC and for, receiving the opportunity to exhibit, because I'm excited to see your work and I'm excited to see other people see your work. I think it's really extraordinary.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course.